Good morning and welcome to week 13. It's Convince Me from the Action Network. I am Chad Millman. It's the most exciting window in sports, folks. 11 a.m. People are getting ready to make their bets. You will not get heartfelt stories. You will not get hot air analysis. You will only get the information you need to make the decisions you need to make this morning in this window. We're going to have Darren Ravel and Katie Richcreek coming on with break-in privileges to give us the news and information. But first, Sean Corner, Chris Raybon, Matthew Friedman, they are all going to try to convince me how I want to spend this thick stack of cash right here. We are going to go through props, sides, and totals. First up, let's talk about some player props, and a reminder for everybody, you can get everything we're talking about, all the data, all of our picks, all the stats, get it in the free award-winning Action Network app. You can download it from the App Store. Also, as we do every Sunday, reply to @Action Network HQ to win some real money with the total number of yards for the player Sean Corner is about to try to convince me to bet on for his exclusive player prop. Give it to me, Sean Corner.
So my Sunday Night Football primetime prop tonight is the over on Noah Fant's receiving yards. Right now it's at 36.5 at BetMGM. An interesting tidbit is Noah Fant was the only player to catch a pass from Kendall Hinton last week, which I think makes him a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. But this is a great spot against the Chiefs tonight. The Broncos are going to likely have to throw a ton tonight just to keep up with KC. And then ultimately we'll probably see some garbage time considering they're 13.5-point underdogs. The Chiefs are pretty good when it comes to shutting down opposing wide receivers, but they can be vulnerable to the tight end position, as we've seen the past couple weeks with Gronk dropping 106 yards against them, and then Darren Waller 88 yards the week before. Fant's gone over this number 7 of 10 games this season, and tonight's game script should be even better. And he's a player that's, probably 1 to 2 years away from his prime. So he's a guy that I'm continually expecting to get better. So I love getting on his over tonight at 36.5. I'd bet it, all the way up to 41.5. So if your book is offering anything in the 30s, I would smash the over here.
You like Noah Fant over 36.5 yards. Reminder, go to @Action Network HQ and reply with what you think Noah Fant's total receiving yards will be tonight for the Broncos against the Chiefs. Matthew Friedman, I think last week you had me convinced that a guy named Kadarius for the Cleveland Browns would have under 28.5 receiving yards, and somehow we ended up with 31. So what are you gonna try to convince me of this week that is gonna make me sick to my stomach?
Well, Chad, I was a week ahead. This week he's out. So, good call, just ahead of my time. I should say, Chad, we normally have an adversarial relationship, but I'm going 3-0 this week, and I am willing to bring you along with me. And it starts with A.J. Brown's touchdown prop. We're going over 0.5 touchdowns receiving against Cleveland. Now, here's the thesis. A.J. Brown, he's a grown-ass man. That's basically the end of it. In a league full of Herculean specimens, A.J. Brown is unrivaled. He is a physical dominator, and you see that in his numbers. In 8 full games this year, he has touchdowns in 7 of them, right? He's Joshua, basically, and the end zone is his promised land. He will not be denied, and the Browns are as useless as the walls of Jericho. They are without their top cornerbacks, Denzel Ward and Greedy Williams. Against Brown, they are basically defenseless. And then there's the aesthetics of this. On a normal prop, a guy gets 3 yards and then another 3 yards, and then eventually he hits his over, and it's like, nothing exciting really happened. But when A.J. Brown scores a touchdown to win you money, it's going to be in soul-stealing fashion with him just throwing guys to the ground. It's going to be something to behold. And then here's the best part. You can bet the over on this at plus money, plus 150 at some sports books. And he scored a touchdown in 7 of 8 games. That's unbelievable. I would bet this down almost to even money. A.J. Brown, milk and honey time, over 0.5 receiving touchdowns.
Look, a Herculean effort to get Herculean into the conversation. And I love that you went biblical on a Sunday morning. What I love most about this bet is that you can get it plus money. And when I was looking at our rundown this morning and sneaking a peek at it, I saw AJ Brown at plus 150. And I thought to myself, to score a touchdown, that's insane because the guy does it practically every single week. And this is a crazy game. And I'm going to be in there are places where you can get the Browns plus 5.5. I like the Browns at plus 5.5 because I do think the Titans have some injuries. But I think this game has the potential to be a shootout. So I like the idea of AJ Brown scoring a touchdown. It's hard because it's coming from you. So that's what's giving me pause. Ray-Ban, talk to me, brother.
Well, my Bible is somewhere collecting dust, so I'm not going to give you all the fancy vocabulary of Matthew Friedman over here, but I am going to give you a winning prop, and that is KJ Hamler under 36.5 receiving yards. You heard Sean Corner mention it earlier. The Kansas City Chiefs defend wide receivers particularly well. Hamler has run 88% of his routes out of the slot in these past 5 weeks. The Chiefs are number 1 in the league in receptions allowed per slot route run on defense at just 9.7. And they're also number 6 in yards allowed. Hamler played this team with Drew Lock in week 7 and got 24 yards all game. So love the under 36.5 for KJ Hamler. Would bet it down to 33.5.
I got to tell you, you guys all made really convincing arguments. I like all these bets. And normally you guys have been crushing the props. We actually talked about it on the Favorites podcast this week. Simon Hunter, professional bettor, talked about how he's just listening to this show to get the player props. Someone give me their strongest argument in the next 30 seconds. Who wants it the most right now?
Okay, look, I'll go since these guys don't have the fortitude to take it. I'm going to take it. All right, they're asking you to make a bet one way or another on the Broncos. We don't know anything about the Broncos with their quarterback situation at this point and how bad they've looked recently. Even Drew Lock in there, who really knows? I'm asking you to easily take the over on the guy who's been the best wide receiver in the league on a per target basis since his first game. Easy.
Hey, Chad, you know how many routes run it takes touchdowns to stabilize? 800. AJ Brown ain't run no 800 routes this season. Variance.
I know, but AJ Brown to score a touchdown is so much fun at plus money. Like, how could I not want to do that? Forget about everything you guys are saying about Hamler, about Fant. Like, it could totally be the right thing. But AJ Brown to score a touchdown when I'm watching this game this afternoon at plus money, it just sounds amazing to me.
Well, good luck trying to find it. I don't know where the hell he's getting this value. Maybe Friedman bought it all up, but I only see negative prices for him. But yeah, plus 150 is hard to pass up. But I will say, the month of December is Derrick Henry month, so be careful. Derrick Henry might score, 4 or 5 touchdowns here, canceling out AJ Brown. But yeah, if you can get plus 150, you got to do it.
I think Friedman's bet should be disqualified on account of putting up an erroneous line by a book that was obviously too low.
What are you talking about? I bet it. I put it in the app.
I'm kidding, bro.
I feel like
we all know that.
I feel like this is the meanest thing Corner has ever said on this show was that he almost didn't like this bet. Almost. And that made me want to go with Noah Fant tonight. So I'm going with Noah Fant and his over 36.5 receiving yards. And by the way, you can reply to @Action Network HQ. You can win real money if you can guess exactly the number of receiving yards Noah Fant has tonight. Give me Noah Fant over 36.5 receiving yards. That is my first bet. Dan Ravel, give us some news.
Okay, Chad. So the game that we're really looking at this week after talking to the sports books is the Raiders-Jets game. Raiders, despite getting throttled by the Falcons, people aren't looking at that. The guys at the Superbook says this is a huge public bet. Obviously, you get past the number at 7.5. DraftKings is the highest right now, offering -8 against the Jets. We spoke to Chris Bennett at the Circa, and he basically said people think the Dolphins and the Raiders are equivalents. The Dolphins were 7.5 point favorites against the Jets, and they won by 17. So the Raiders would be around that number, and they are at most books exactly at 7.5. 89% of the spread is on the Raiders at PointsBet, and they say that is the second biggest decision of the day after Sunday Night Football.
That is very helpful, and I want to tell this group something, and I do want to get Friedman and Corner and Raybon's opinion on this, because I did the most disgusting thing in the world this morning. I bet the Jets plus 8.5 or 8. I can't remember which. I bet the Eagles, and we're talking about sides in this next segment, so this is relevant. I bet the Eagles against the Packers at plus 8.5. I bet the Jets money line, and then I did a Jets Washington football team parlay. That's what I did this morning before we came on the show.
So gross, Chad. So gross.
It's so disgusting. It's going to make my afternoon miserable. Sean Corner, convince me of a side I should be taking here.
You should take the Pats plus 1.5 today. This is definitely the biggest coaching mismatch of week 13. You have Bill Belichick versus Anthony Lynn. Now, I've been way too eager to back the Chargers this season. I'll be the first to admit it, mainly because I'm bullish on Justin Herbert, and I still am. But, especially last week, Anthony Lynn made a handful of decisions that definitely hurt the team. We don't have to worry about that with Bill Belichick. I think he's going to find a way to force Herbert into making mistakes today. We saw Belichick's former coaching disciple, Miami's Dolphins head coach Brian Flores, shut down Herbert back in week 10. Herbert only threw for 187 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick in their 21-29 loss. It was actually the only game where he threw for under 264 yards. So very similar defense to the Pats. The Chargers defense ranks 31st in DVOA against the run. They're allowing the second most explosive run rate. So, this is a great matchup for the Pats. They should be able to run all over the Chargers and, outcoach them here. So I love getting New England plus 1.5 here.
I do love the Pats in this spot. It's a little history lesson since I'm the elder statesman for all of you. But back in the day when Norv Turner was coaching the San Diego Chargers for which feels like a decade, the only 2 coaches in the league that any wise guy gave any points to in terms of their handicapping and how they did their power rating, they upgraded Bill Belichick, so he was worth a point against the point spread. Norv Turner was taking it down a point against the point spread, so he was a -1 in any kind of power rating. I feel like we're getting that kind of matchup today. It has been the conversation all week in sort of the gambling sort of echo chamber has been the Pats as a coaching mismatch, and that's why you want to be on New England. Friedman, I don't know, you probably got something that's going to really make my stomach turn.
Chad, first of all, the rest of the show is under protest because you should have taken that prop. But anyway, here we are, another Scylla and Charybdis situation for you. You want to side with, you don't want to side with me, right? But I know you want to take this bet, and that is Cardinals plus 2.5, plus 3. Chad, this is easy. A home dog, a short home dog that should be a favorite, right? The Cardinals opened as 1-point favorites, but the public looks at them, sees a team with 2 straight losses, bets against them, and now they're dogs. But the recent losses were close. They were on the road against the Seahawks and the Pats. There's no shame there in losing. There are concerns about Kyler Murray's shoulder, but he practiced in full on Thursday and Friday. You typically don't see that if a guy has a real injury issue. This is a division game, so I would expect the scoring to be tight. And under head coach Cliff Kingsbury, the Cardinals as underdogs are 12-5-2 against the spread. But it really comes down to this. In the app, we have 5 signals that for each bet point to the side that is likelier to be profitable. Sharp action, big money, pro systems, model projections, and expert picks. At one point this week, all 5 indicators were pointing toward the Cardinals. As a company man, I had to bet the Cardinals. Chad, if you don't bet the Cardinals, that means you hate the Action Network and our CEO, Patrick Keene. Don't be a hater, Chad. Cardinals plus 2.5, plus 3.
Oh my God, Raybon, that is so much to live up to right now.
It's interesting because I feel like I'm going to take Sean's role as the nice guy here since he's got a little mean streak going and say that Cardinals was actually my top pick on this week's Action Network podcast. And I just wrote the Patriots up for my week 13 betting card. So I'm totally on board with those picks, but I already won convinced me, because what did you say at the top? Who did you bet this morning? You bet the Jets. That's my pick. So you're already convinced. So I'll convince the rest of the viewers out there. But the Vegas Raiders have no Josh Jacobs, who is really the key to their offense, because you put a lot of pressure on Derek Carr to make plays when he's not there. The Jets also have a top 5 run defense in terms of adjusted line yards. So they are likely to make Devontae Booker and Jalen Richard and that run game offense one-dimensional and make Carr put it up. And then when you kind of compare these two offenses, now that the Jets are healthy at wide receiver, Denzel Mims flashing, you have Crowder, you have Perriman going against a bad defense without their safety and player who's played the most snaps in Jonathan Abram, and the guy who really just is gives them a lot of energy on that defense. He's out. Remember, this time last year, the Raiders came to New Jersey with 6 wins and a negative point differential. They were favored. They lost 34-3. Adam Gase off a loss as a non-divisional home dog, 8-2-1 against the spread. It's one of the few spots he tends to prepare well for. And by the way, this time of the year, this is where you get the upsets. Like money line underdogs with a win percentage under 20. And of course, the Jets haven't won a game, so it's 0. When they're facing a mediocre favorite with a winning percentage at 55 or below, so some good, some kind of shaky, those teams are 24-16, not against the spread, straight up since 2005. Big upset spot for the Jets. If they're going to get a win, this might be one of their best chances.
Well, listen, I have already taken a decent amount of cash here and put it on the Jets and put it on the Jets money line. I don't even need you guys to go back and try to convince me of what I want to do right now, because I know you like all of the bets. I know nobody can trash any one of these bets because these are wise guy bets, right? We are talking about Jets on the money line. We are talking about Patriots as an underdog on the road. We are talking about the Cardinals. I think it's fair to say I've got an Action Network sign. I've got an Action Network hoodie. My mother-in-law reminds me all the time that I have put her grandchildren's future on the line with the Action Network. I am nothing if not a company man. Give me the Cardinals plus 2.5. And what I'll say is, Freeman, the only reason I didn't take AJ Brown is because I am suspect about that number at plus 150. But I don't think you can get the Cardinals anywhere at plus 2.5. So you just got to know that, like, you are banking on a wise guy pick, that you are taking a home dog, a short home dog, which in theory I love, and all the sort of signals, as you mentioned in the app, will show you that is the right side to take. But I do love the Cards at plus 2.5, even though you're not getting the best of the number anymore. Nice job, Matthew Friedman. Nice job. Katie Rich Creek, you got anything to back me up? Anything that I've done, can you back me up on anything I've done so far?
I actually can. And this was going to work no matter which of the picks you just picked, because all 3 were underdogs, which sets up this nugget well. In our database that stretches back to 2003, so that's 18 seasons, this season and last season featured the 2 best starts for underdogs. They have a 56.3% win rate through November of both seasons. So you were set either way, Chad.
That means I'm a winner. Let's do some totals. Sean Corner, you convinced me of Noah Fant. It was an underdog, come from behind win, because I was all in on AJ Brown touchdown. What kind of total do I want?
You want the Giants Seahawks under 47. Try to get 47.5 if you can, because 47 is a pretty key number when it comes to totals. But, Seattle let Russell cook for the first 8 games. They had the 6th highest passing rate in the league during that span. It was sort of necessary given how historically bad their defense was. The over went 6-2 over that stretch. But over the past 3 games, the under's gone 3-0 because there's a bit of a shift. Their defense is playing much better, like I wrote up a few weeks ago. And all of the running backs are healthy. So their pass rate has dropped to 18th in the league over that stretch. Now today, they're 11-point favorites against a Colt McCoy-led Giants team. We pretty much know by now that Colt McCoy is a below average quarterback. He has a career passer rating of 78.2. He's thrown for 29 touchdowns and 27 interceptions. So it's unlikely the Giants will be able to score enough points for Russell Wilson to keep his foot on the gas for all 4 quarters. So, I expect a pretty run-heavy, conservative game plan from Seattle here, which actually plays right into the strength of the Giants. They're the third lowest success rate allowed against the run, only behind Tampa Bay and New Orleans in that stat. So, this is going to be a slower paced, lower scoring game than I think the market realizes. So give me the under 47 here.
I like it. I like it for a couple of reasons. What you said about the Giants rush G, that's sort of been ignored. Raybon's been talking about that all season long. The Seahawks pass defense has just been getting better. Like with Carlos Dunlap, since he joined the team, they've gotten a lot more pass rush from the edge. Jamal Adams continues to be sort of a really good blitzer for them against a below average quarterback in Colt McCoy, who I have personal affection for just because I've always liked him. But that's an interesting one. I don't mind betting against the Giants having to score points. Friedman, you're on a hot streak today. I'm liking you more than I normally do, finding you less insufferable. Give me something.
Well, I've come in pretty hot on the first 2. I'm going to take it a little bit easy on this one. I'm going under 42.5, Dolphins Bengals. The Bengals are starting third string quarterback Brandon Allen. Last week, they scored just 17 points with him. I don't see why they would be any better this week. The Dolphins' pass defense is pretty good with cornerbacks Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. Their pass rush is good enough to exploit a pretty bad Bengals offensive line. We're going to be looking at pressures, quarterback knockdowns, sacks. All of that will make it hard for the Bengals and Brandon Allen to sustain drives and score points. And then the Dolphins are going with rookie quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. So we should see more of a ground-based offense. I don't think they're going to have that wide open Ryan Fitzpatrick YOLO approach. This will be a controlled attack for the Dolphins. And so that means I think a pretty reserved game, something like 27-13. So I would take this down to 40 if necessary. So Dolphins, Bengals under 42.5.
That was a remarkably measured pitch. Raybon, you're shut out so far today. Like I haven't believed in anything you've said other than the fact that like I was already on one of your sides. So what can you tell me? Convince me.
I feel like we need to turn it around because you just, in the span of the last 3 minutes, said you liked not only Colt McCoy, but also Matthew Friedman. So convince me. How you like that? But I'm going with the Colts and the Texans under 50.5. And the reason is that one thing I like to do, and I've found profitable when betting totals and unders, is to look at average depth of target, because you want teams that are going to kind of have to move the ball, slowly down the field, and not teams that are going to, throw it deep and you get a pass interference, some kind of chunk play with the clock stop. It's not good. Well, Houston, of course, they beat up on Matt Patricia, in a national TV game, and everyone remembers that, and he gets fired. But since then, Will Fuller has been suspended for the year, their top wide receiver. He averaged 11.1 yards before the catch. Kenny Stills, without, I guess, knowing that Fuller was going to get suspended, they waived him. So he was leading the team 11.5 yards before the catch. And they're replacing these 2 players with Kiki QT, who's essentially a slot underneath guy. Randall Cobb is also out. So like, not only are they missing their downfield targets, but they're just missing over 40% of their targets and 13 of their 29 end zone targets for the season. Last week, Indianapolis got lit up by Tennessee, but if you've been following Tennessee, they do this to everyone. Ryan Tannehill is actually 20-4 toward the over. So you can't judge by last week, but especially because Indy didn't have DeForest Buckner and Autry on the line. They get those guys back today. And to top it all off, Indianapolis, without left tackle Anthony Costanzo, Phillip Rivers cannot move. So everything here points to the under. And in terms of the show, it's also the highest total on the day. And we know totals have been tough this year. The unders haven't been going under quite as much, but I'm really confident in this one. Indy, a top 7 defense. And remember how Houston struggled early in the year against better defensive competition.
Friedman and corner. Raybon is so far ahead on points right now. One of you try to tell me why I shouldn't be on Raybon.
I'm not going to. It's a good pitch. It would be nice to have Raybon get on the board here.
I don't want no handouts. Don't take my pick, Chad.
No, I'm taking your pick. Here's why. I actually feel like this is one of the toughest games to handicap from a side perspective. So if you do want to get an action on this game, like the Colts to me are a smash side at 3. It's at 3.5. But I am concerned about Phillip Rivers and his turf toe. You see on the other side, this is a massive buy low, sell high, right? Because of everything you just said. So this is a really interesting way to get into this game. And with the Texans losing so much productivity from the receiving position and the Colts getting healthier on a defense that is already so much better than a lot of defenses in the NFL, and then a quarterback who's already immobile being more immobile, give me this Colts Texans under 50.5. That's what I am going to do. Just writing it down. Katie Rich Creek.
I have one very final quick nugget for you before we let Darren close it out. Over-unders are winning at exactly 50% rates respectively so far this season. That's 87 and 87 and 3 through the first 177 games. We still have a lot to go, but overs have a very small edge in terms of margin, clearing by an average of 1.2 points per game. So I don't know, just interesting nugget. That's all.
Interesting. That last one is especially interesting because it means I got to go with an under because I got to fade whatever the trend has been. Darren Ravel, what's happening at the books?
Not too many big bets we've seen so far, although MGM took a $110,000 bet on both Indy -3 and San Francisco -1. As you know, that game is kind of flipped, San Francisco and the Bills. I will say that one nugget I've seen is that Circa, the largest team in terms of survivor picks in their survivor contest. So that is the team that people who bet are guaranteeing to win, and that is the Vikings by a large margin. We saw a bet come in to the Superbook, 25,000 on the Vikings to win, nets 5,000.
Those are always exciting. I can't disagree. This is a weird year for the Vikings. I thought they'd be much better. I thought coming out of the bye, they had started to play really well, and they've had just a couple of really craptastic games. You guys have given me so much to think about today. And I like the Noah Fan. I'm going to give everybody what sort of my best bet is off of this right now. I've gone with so far Noah Fan over 36.5 receiving yards for the Broncos, the tight end tonight. I've gone with the Cardinals +2.5, and I've gone with the Texans and the Colts under 50.5. I have made no secret that I do have a bias on the Jets today at +8, +8.5. I love the Jets today. I'm also on the Jets money line. So if I decided to take Raybon's advice in the game, that might be it for me. But I'm going with Cards +2.5. I can't ignore the signals. The signals are saying Cards +2.5. We're going in on the Cards +2.5. That's going to be my best bet. This has been Convince Me from the Action Network. Good luck to everybody today.